Give everybody a minute. My name is Karen Day. I'm a planner with KLJ and the project manager for this project. With me from KLJ today is Andrew Theroff, who's going to help us with the polling. Those of you who were here last time, we vote, give your ideas about different things. And also Bob Shannon. Bob's our transportation engineer guru from our Bismarck office. And Bob was the project manager for the Dickinson 2035. So he knows lots about the city, and I'm really happy he can be with us. So here we go. This is our agenda for today. We'll do an overview, let you know where we are, and identify some of the most important issues, and then we'll really get to the best part of this, which is asking what your opinion is on a number of topics. So we're developing the future land use plan, the future land use map now. We're in the process. The last time we met, we were just kicking it off, and now we're exactly right in the middle of it. We have some draft things for you to look at, and we'll go through those, but we have no answers yet, but we're working on it. This is just to remind you that the presentation from today, when we get back to the office, will be on our website. It's a really good place to go to find information about the project, the schedule. We've just completed the first of 2 surveys, and the results of the survey are posted on the website. And the existing Dickinson 2035 plans posted there. So almost anything that we know, the newspaper articles about the project are posted there. So everything that you want to know about the project, will be there. This is just a reminder, this is the boundary of the study area. 35th Street on the north, the existing city limits are on the east. Lake Patterson is Patterson Lake on the bottom. And the westerly boundary is a half a mile west of where the bypass is, generally. For landmarks, we know where the Menards is, so that's up in the northeast corner. And to the south is the Bacchanal Express and the new refinery. So that kind of gets you oriented to where this project is. It's about 6,100 acres, which is just a little bit smaller than the existing limits of the city of Dickinson. The purpose of this study is what it says on the board, is to plan for the future, to understand what's going on, the growth trends, and to look at this area. It's really an important area for the city to be aware of what's going on there and plan for the infrastructure expansion if it would be in that area. The project schedule, you can see where we are today. We have the next meeting is on September 22nd, and that meeting will be in the morning. In this room, it's a joint meeting with the planning and zoning and with the city. It will be a meeting that we present our draft. And the final adoption will be in December. It's very likely that we will add a meeting in November, and that will be published on the website and the usual ways of getting information to you. And that's again, the meeting here, the next meeting is at 10 o'clock in the morning, same place, earlier in the day. So this is what we're going to do today. We'll update you on the background information that we have and share with you our draft plans as they are, the concepts on the plans, and then show you a little bit of the analysis that we're doing on those plans to get ready to prepare the final draft. The plans that we'll show you are very generalized, and we will have them more detailed when we come the next time. And I'm going to turn the meeting over to Bob Shannon, who will walk you through some of the data and the mapping that we've done so far, and the transportation updated plan.
Thanks, Karen. Great to see a good crowd here today. Let's start out with the population a little bit. As Karen mentioned, I was one of the leaders for our team for the Dickinson Plan 2035. And that was 2 years ago when we looked at the data there. These population forecasts then were developed based on a lot of the oil patch growth, employment projections, housing projections done by NDSU. But at that time, we were based on 40-some thousand oil wells. Now, 2 years later, remember back then, people were saying, well, is this really going to last? You know, is this really for sure? 2 years later now, they're saying 60,000 oil wells. So I think that's a reaffirmation that, yes, we are on a track for population growth. Whatever that number may be, this may end up being conservative. And as we see the response from the developers in the community, they also have some faith that they're going to get a return on their investment, and it looks like a very strong growth. Now, this study area is a little behind the rest of the community. You know, this is still mostly farmland. And the rest of the community already has plats going, there's construction everywhere, so those areas are going to fill up. And that population for the next couple of years is going to be really going there and not out here. But as you can see on this graph, the top end shows that by the time we get to 2020, this area is going to have more infrastructure in it, more plats, more building, and now it's going to be starting to intercept a greater percentage of that growth in the community. Just some background. This is information that we use in looking at what could this area be like and what can we do to maintain some quality of life and preserve the good things, manage the transitions between different types of uses. First off, this is the water and wetlands. You can see the lake, obviously, but we also have some major drainage areas going through the area, and these are significant in that they impact how we do land use, how we plan infrastructure. We usually want to plan a sanitary sewer, for instance, to drain by gravity. All these drainage ways are the low spots. So those are areas where typically a community wants, let's put the sanitary sewer lines down there. We need to have some easement space for that. So those are corridors. Then we look at what are the steep slopes. The area in the light brown, those are areas that are too steep to build on. And you can see some concentrations in some spots. Right in the middle of the study area, we have quite a bit of steep slope on the north side of that one drainage way. So that's an area that maybe we need to consider something else. Maybe that's more conducive to a golf course or park property rather than something like tracks for development that need fairly flat land. Then you start adding the 100-year floodplain onto that, and you can see how those little streams become a little wider. And now we get into the issue of stormwater management, and do we need to have detention ponds in some of these valleys, and how do we manage that, minimize our cost throughout the development of the community or the expansion. And then one obvious elephant in the room, where's the oil wells? These are the existing ones. You can see those red spots. We've got a few existing. There's some that have been abandoned out there as well. And we know there's going to be more new ones. So how do we include those in any considerations? Well, here's the existing roads out there. And one thing I want to point out, if you're familiar at all with some of the oil patch development, typically it's a 2-mile oil spacing unit. 2 sections of land stacked north-south on top of each other. The east-west roads at the top and bottom of that 2-square-mile area is what they call the drilling line, and that's where the wells are typically put, the well pads. Through our study area, I-94 is that drilling line. So in the future, oil pads typically would be, new ones would be placed north and south of interstate along there. Now they're doing a lot of things to reduce their footprint, consolidating, putting 6, 8 wells, 10 wells on one big pad. But you still have a lot of trucks servicing these areas. And we need to understand that so we can determine how that's going to impact future land use and future development. If you go 2 miles south of the interstate, you see we run into the lake. So are there going to be future oil well pads along the north shore of the lake? Probably. And now we look at the existing land uses that are out there, and the green being the agricultural. Now you really see, this is what we have out there. We have farmland, and we have a mixture of some other uses, the industrial parks, the rail park, the refinery, and then we also have that growing commercial and multi-use area on the northeast that's expanding westward into this study area. Same on the rest of the east side. It's all being developed. It's expanding this way. How are we going to consider that? Let's go back to the existing road system. The blue line is the interstate going east-west through the area. The green line is a minor arterial. That's Old Highway 10. And that's an important route and is going to stay an important route. We need to preserve the integrity of that. Other than that, we have some local black roads there that are mostly local streets. Now, on the west side of 116th is going to become the new bypass that's currently under construction. This is what we're proposing as a new road system that would be in the future. Now, these aren't all going to be built tomorrow or in the next 10 years, but when those areas develop, this is the configuration that we're suggesting we look at preserving these alignments. Now, the green roads are the minor arterials. They're a longer trip that they serve, more important function. At the top of the page is 35th Street, and that would be an important east-west road. Now, minor arterials are typically spaced about a mile apart. Well, a mile south of 35th, we have the interstate. So then going another mile south, we have 37th Street. And then north-south as well, similar spacing. The collector roads are also federal aid routes. They're typically about a half a mile apart, usually on the quarter lines. But we've got some terrain, we've got some floodplains, we've got existing oil wells, and so that has resulted in the alignments that we have here. Now this shows where some intersections that we think would be candidates for a roundabout. If developers and the local community wanted to support that, we think those are spots where they would have some value. You can see that pretty much includes most of the intersections where it's a collector with a minor arterial. And this is a picture of the roundabout up at Killdeer. I hear more and more people that have actually driven through that and are amazed how well it works, and they love it. If you haven't had a chance to go through it, think about that when you do get a chance. Let's go back to the street system here, the proposed street system. Around the upper left side, we've got an arrow pointing to some red triangles. That's the interchange that's under construction right now out at the bypass. And you can see that interchange is a little further east of where that existing old underpass is. That old existing underpass is going to be taken out. And then now the only way to cross the interstate will be the new interchange. Well, that's a pretty big game changer out there as far as land use, development demands, and just access. So we really need to be aware of that. The DOT has already established where future intersections are going to be. The only intersections that they will have on that are already shown on this map, where we have, say at the top of the page, 35th Street, that green dashed line intersecting there. They have that reserved to be an intersection. And then the next one south, where we have around 21st, that will be an intersection. Now at the top of the page, that's where 35th is. I've talked about that being a minor arterial. That's an important roadway. Right now, it's not a through street. You can't even go that full length because there's farmland. Ends up being just a field. But in the future, as that develops, we would like that to be a major corridor. Now moving down over to the east side of I-94, we're proposing that 114th be an overpass over the interstate. Now think of the interstate as a large barrier, and we need to have crossings of that every so often. Again, I referenced minor arterials, typically a 1 mile spacing. 1 mile east of that, we have the I-94 business loop interchange. So this is a real logical place to have that future overpass. This was in our 2035 plan also. So hopefully we can do the access control so that we've got room to get up and over that interstate with our earth embankment and not impact brand new developments that might happen around there. Now, if you think, well, how about let's go a mile west of that and let's put another overpass. Let's carry that same theory. However, as we go west to the south of the interstate, we don't have an opportunity to provide a through route very well. The terrain, the existing development doesn't do that. So we don't see a lot of value to an overpass to the west there. Right in this area where the arrow points. Just south of there, where we have no roads indicated, that's where we've got a lot of steep slopes. We've also got the 100-year floodplain. Let's just stay out of that. Maybe that could be park property or something, or the golf course. That's somebody's suggestion. Also, think about where the oil wells might happen out here. If they're all going to be along the north and south side of the interstate, how do we provide access in and out of those? Do we want those trucks rolling down the same road we're on going to the grocery store or to our driveway for our home? One concept we've thought of is, can we work with the Industrial Commission and the oil companies to just put the wells on one side of the interstate? How about on the south side? When you come into the community, your gateway is the interstate. Now you can see the nice inviting commercial residential on the north side, and you see the inviting powerhouse of the economic engine of all the oil wells, but never the twain shall meet. This purple road by the arrow then becomes the access road for those oil wells and might be a buffer from one land use transition to another. One side of the road you have wells, the other side of the road you start to get spacing away from them. Now where the arrow is, we've got, again, some terrain issues, the floodplain issues. We've got a couple existing oil wells and a farmstead. So here the road has to meander a little and go around that. And this is the only access south of the interchange that the DOT is going to allow there. They do have an access immediately south of the interchange that would go in just to where an existing farmstead is, I believe, or oil well. Down in the southeast, another transportation issue is we're developing this whole area, but let's not ignore this tremendous asset we have in Patterson Lake. Great recreation area. We've already got a campground, day use area, but now we have the trains roaring by here and blowing the horn. We've already got residential development right there. Can we consider this as a future quiet rail location? Get the trains not to blow their horn and design that rail crossing for safety so that we can have the campers really appreciate it and the residents be able to sleep through the night. There's another rail crossing just a mile east that could also be considered for that. And finally, the truck bypass right now is conceived to be from the interstate north. The county is planning some improvements on 116th down to Old Highway 10. But in our 2035 plan, we also suggested that, let's not forget, we might need a southwest bypass in the future. Let's preserve that corridor so that in the future it can operate as a truck route. Then we get into what kind of roads are these going to look like? What are some of the issues? Well, one of the issues is this is farmland. We've already heard, geez, there's so many semi-trucks backed up on this road. They're here waiting in line to get into the Bakken Oil Express, and I can't get my machinery down the road because the road isn't wide enough. So if you've got the top road section, a collector, a local commercial, or a local industrial road, we're suggesting that road have two 12-foot lanes, but also have 12-foot shoulders. The reason being, now you can move your machinery freely down the road. You can move over and get around some of that traffic, but also emergency vehicles have access down those roads when there is congestion. It also provides, in some areas, you might want on-street parking there, or maybe you want a bike lane on there, or a shared road where the bikes just ride down the road, but they want a little more space when you pass them. So it provides so many benefits by having that wider road, whether it's got curb and gutter on it or whether it's a ditch section. But let's just make sure we try and accommodate everybody's needs and desires there. Minor arterials, let's plan so that they can be widened. Maybe they're going to be a 2 or 3 lane roadway, but let's have enough right-of-way out there that as this area grows, if we need 4 lanes, we can make that happen. We can't predict the traffic volumes that are going to be here. We can't say it's going to be exactly this amount. We can't predict exactly how much population is going to be there. But if we plan ahead, we can accommodate that growth. Same with the principal arterial. There we know we've got a wide right-of-way required. Just drove the bypass, the temporary bypass that's opened, and they've got that wide median. They've got wide ditch sections so that if you do slide off the road in the winter, now you've got a nice safe ditch to go down. Don't have to worry about rolling the car as much. So there we want to make sure we're preserving enough right-of-way also. And finally, we've also got the trails opportunities. The previous sections showed that we can have a shared use path alongside an arterial road, or we can have the bikes have enough width to ride on the road, either in a lane or just sharing it. All these waterways that could be preserved as a greenway can now provide an additional function besides having stormwater management, a route for gravity flow sanitary sewer. Now we can also make that a route for another trail connection. And we've already got a single track path like the one in the picture, the Crooked Crane Trail, around the entire lake. So let's capitalize on that and continue to build on some of those assets that we have for recreation and for transportation. Karen.
The roadway network obviously is the network for the future development in this area. So this part of our presentation will talk about how we should grow in the area, how the area should grow, and then where it should be growing. How it should grow really is a function of the density. If it grows, with more density, then that doesn't take up so much space. These photographs are from the city of Dickinson today, ranging in density from 1 unit per 8 is what's shown on the lower left, and the picture of the apartment buildings in the upper right are 8.5 units an acre. So it's a broad range. And we've done a little exhibit to show you how much property, within the study area would be covered by those densities. So this shows if the entire area is not likely to develop at 8.5 units an acre, but if it did, this is how much space that would take up, given the population projections that we had. If you put all those people in 8.5 units an acre, that's how much it would take. If you bump that up to between 5 and 6, obviously it takes up more space. If you go to 3 units an acre, that takes up even more. At 1 unit an acre, it's pretty much the size of the 6,100 acres. And if you go to 1 unit per 2 acres, which is a very common pattern, it's, way more than the area. So the density really does matter when you're planning for the future of the area. You've seen, on boards behind 4 alternative growth scenarios. As we're looking to the future of the area, we're looking to see concepts that may make sense. So we've selected 4, and they're kind of the basis for our work that we're doing right now. In all of them, this is what we're looking at. To protect and enhance property rights. We're looking at the amount of any of those uses, how much industrial use or how much industrial acres really should be sure that we have it, because it's something that's an economic engine for the city and the region. or how much commercial should be within this area to support the residential uses, and where should it be? The community character, that's really important. It's come out in the survey that we did in our conversations the last time. Economic development. I mean, these are things that we're looking at in each of these. Infrastructure, so that infrastructure that's more efficient, obviously is a better for the community. And then the lake. So these are the 4 concepts, and they're very, let me just say it again, very preliminary sketches for concepts that might be applied to this property. The first one is called the corridor growth, and Bob Shannon likes to describe this as it's kind of like rolling out a carpet, and it's a scenario that we see in many cities throughout the country. Basically, development follows the roadway corridors. And in this one, that's kind of what's happening today. You see it both north and south of the interstate. The development is moving out. I would expect from the interchange, once that's in place, development will grow north, probably north and south from that. And, looking out to the future, those, roadway corridors may just continue just to go. They fill up and then, hit another one. Now, the sequencing of these obviously is going to depend on a lot of things, but it's a concept. Concept has, particularly when you look at the very beginnings of it, has a lot of positive attributes. The development is taking advantage of the roads that are already in place. And so that's a good thing. If it's done in a logical sequence, then providing additional infrastructure is not all that expensive. But there are negative things about this concept too. Oftentimes there's a premature commitment of development of the frontage, which, as any of you have lived even in this city for a long time, we'll see that the frontage is full up with strip commercials, so then development that's behind it, it's harder to access it and, to make it something that's really a valuable commodity because of what's already committed up front. Oftentimes development that's in this pattern too, there are just too many accesses onto the roadway. And we can see that on Old Highway 10 today. Single family accesses or commercial accesses really decrease the efficiency of the road or the carrying capacity of the roads. So there's a couple of negatives about that corridor development. This one is, we see it around most cities. So the concept of this is that most urban services and employment would stay within the city of Dickinson, and then the rest of the world around the city, around the core of the city of Dickinson, the rest of it would be basically residential development and low-density residential development. And people talk about urban sprawl, and this concept is that. And this is kind of what usually happens if there's no plan. It just sort of is like an amoeba, goes across the universe. The negatives of the positives of this is that no planning is needed, it just sort of happens. And the negatives or the challenges of it is that it's not efficient at all. You don't know where development is going to happen or sequencing infrastructure to providing for it. And everybody needs to get in their car to go every place. There are no centers for destinations. So this concept is labeled a village or node development. It could be a town, small town. In my prior lives, worked in lots of large-scale residential golf course communities or residential mixed-use kind of communities, and have used this concept a lot. I've worked on projects for single developers or single owners that have been this size or twice this size. 11,000 acre project that is now pretty much all built out, but using this kind of concept. So this is to have focused development, not like the one before where it's just all over, but would be focused. The asterisks on there say villages, but those are centers for more intense development. It may be around a neighborhood center, or it could be even around a community center that would be kind of a focus of a neighborhood. The yellow spot on there is called a neighborhood node that would service the areas, be commercial usually, generally just right around it. The community node that's in the kind of orange color would service a couple of miles around the big community, and the red spot are regional nodes, and those would be commercial centers that would service the region, defined however you want. So and the sequencing of this will depend on a lot of things, but it's a concept. You know, as it would develop, you know, there would be more spots, and development would occur in a pattern maybe like that, or maybe something completely different. But the idea is that development would be focused in key areas. In the last meeting, we asked about industrial development, and you know, should it be focused near the existing industrial development? And the first answer says the support, and it was, you know, overwhelming. 74% supported the idea of focusing industrial development there. This one asks, you know, should we, in our planning, ensure that there's enough industrial development? And again, it's 67%, a little bit less, but you know, significant support for doing that. So we've looked at a concept that, or even part of a concept that focuses on industrial development. There are lots of aspects of this, and our focus in our work going forward is on the first three down from the top, trying to see how much industrial land really needs to be here. I was talking to somebody earlier before the meeting started that the usual ratios of industrial to population or to acres of a community just don't work here. And they don't work for a couple of reasons. One, because they're usually looking at manufacturing facilities. You know, say have this much square footage of a building, or this much acres, and this many people employed here. Well, they're not looking at something like the Bacchanal Express that is a smaller footprint, but you know, lots of industrial acres involved. So we're still trying to work our way through exactly how many acres, or that's not exactly, but a range of acres that we should be recommending to the city, industrial acres. So this is industrial focus, and going back to the question before, you know, this shows the refinery and the oil express. You know, that industry makes sense that it would want to be connecting to the new interchange and the truck bypass, and that's what this shows. It, you know, going up north. Whoops. I skipped over one. There. The challenge to doing that is two things. One is how much industry really makes sense for this area, and the other is circled in white, and the white spots are existing residential uses, homes. And you know, industry and residential, particularly if you're putting targeting new industry for the area, those things are challenging to have them work side by side or across the street from each other. So there are two other areas that we're looking at, and as I said, you know, this is a process. We're looking at expanding the industry to the east and connecting to the existing industry, and if we did that, then some of the industry to the north would be deleted from the map. And then following up on what Bob mentioned earlier about the oil wells, the drilling maybe being south of the interstate, you know, maybe that makes sense to put industry there. But this is, you know, as the other elements of this project, a work in progress. This is exactly where we are now. In moving forward, we are analyzing the different scenarios and also looking at some specific issues that are important to us. Those are the 4 scenarios. We're evaluating each one of them for these and many more kind of criteria. You know, how efficient can infrastructure be there? What's the what's the cost of doing these developments? How much land is consumed by it? And in this part of the world, that would equate to loss of farmland, water use, housing cost, school impact. And we had a group here last time from South Hart. School impact is a significant impact. Commute time. You know, if everybody needs to commute to here to work, then that's different than if there's places for them to work closer to where they live. And we're looking at these, compatibility with existing uses, particularly with residential uses, the impacts, potential impacts on the lake, urban services, community gateways, and industrial developments. We're looking at a lot of different things and evaluating these scenarios. We're also using a new software, it's not new, but a software tool for this project, and we've looked at these scenarios in a general way, and as we move forward with the more detailed planning, we will look at those plans also. It's called Community Viz, and this is a kind of a cartoon of what the area looks like today. You know, the green being agriculture and the yellow residential, and the wetland going through there. So what we did, we've different ways of looking at it. We looked at three kind of different scenarios, and this is more detailed than the maps I showed you before, to see what impact different kinds of uses would have on these things that we're measuring. The upper left is a map of the existing. The one to the right shows the yellow is residential, the kind of pinky color is commercial, and the purple is industry. The colors are the same in the four sketches. The one on the bottom left shows more industry with commercial along the frontage. And the one on the right, that kind of brown color, is multifamily. So it's multifamily, commercial, and residential with a little bit of agricultural, low-density residential left. And this is an exercise for us to kind of gear up for looking at the more detailed plans that we're doing. So the results of this are, you know, really, you can just see the charts. For some of the scenarios, for some of them, the top left is the residential units, populations, school children, commercial jobs to housing ratio, which kind of goes to the long of commute, labor force, water use, trips per day. So these and a number of other criteria we're looking at. I'm showing this to you as a preview for what we're doing coming up. We also looked at this piece, this scenario B, and looked at different densities and what that would do to it. And you can see by the charts, I know you can't read the numbers on the charts from where you're sitting, except these guys in the front row, they may be able to read the numbers. But you can see that as it gets more dense, it's not more dense, as there are more units, then the impacts are more. And this is just a close-up of the population, which is kind of a no-brainer. If you go from very low density to higher, there are going to be more people there. So you'll see applications of this when we come back with a more detailed plan. The I-94 interchange is really important. It's a lot of the reasons why we're doing this study in the first place. And so we thought we needed to spend some time and some attention focused on it. Interchange planning, and I've been involved in numbers of interchanges in different places. You know, we're looking at the most appropriate uses for the interchange, and it's not, you know, every interchange isn't the same. It depends on what's around it and where it's going and the roadway network. We're also looking to be sure we're protecting the carrying capacity of those roads. You know, we've seen so many communities where they build one bypass and then 5 years, 10 years later, they have to build another bypass because the first one didn't work, and then years later, then there's, you know, one more bypass. So looking to protect the carrying capacity of that interchange. And, you know, I've heard often that this is a really good chance for Dickinson to have a, you know, beautiful gateway or a really important gateway to the community. So that's something we're looking at. This is kind of, these are both to the same scale. It's just the northeast quadrant of the new interchange, you know, as compared to the one that's on exit 64. So in, you know, 64, there's the truck stop, and then there's some dealerships, equipment dealerships, and I mean there's a lot of stuff there. And I think if we did a, you know, raise of hand of, you know, how many think it's the most attractive entrance to the city, maybe not so many hands would go up. So then we looked at other interchanges, and the one to the right is Iowa 80. It's supposed to be the biggest truck stop in the US of A. It's 84 acres, and it has, I have notes of how many. It can, the little building that's to the north of it is a museum they even have. Oh, I mean, it's worth a second just so. Okay. 5,000 customers a day, parking for 900 tractor trailers, 250 cars, and 20 buses. I mean, it's impressive. But that's how big it is. And this is, you know, that same space at the Dickinson interchange. In Billings, the interchange there that has a truck stop, that truck stop on the north part of that image is 19 acres. So there's a lot of space to do different kinds of uses. Since I've been working on this project, the only thing I've ever heard, and there probably are other ideas, but I've ever heard about uses to be put at that interchange are truck stops. And so I showed you the other truck stops. I mean, they take up a lot of space, the biggest truck stop, but there's a space for other kinds of uses. And these are some that could be considered. I think that each of the quadrants of the interchange are very different in character on the ground. And I show you this one. This is a thing it's outside of Milwaukee. It's just an interchange that has different kinds of uses at each of the quadrants. And I have nothing to do with this project. It just is something that it just shows sensitivity to the differences. The bottom left is a commerce center. That kind of tan color is a health hospitals and rehab centers. The red is residential. It's usually not how you color red, but it's how they have. But it's just kind of an example of and a prodding to us on the planning team that we really need to be looking at each of the quadrants a little separately. So other issues, you know, how, as we talked about the industrial and how much industrial use is really needed, we need to do the same thing for commercial. And we'll ask you some questions about commuting habits. You know, what kind of commercial should there be there? Should it be just neighborhood commercial or more significant commercial? You know, will we expect everybody that lives in these 6,100 acres to go to the edge of town or to go into Dickinson to have all their shopping needs met, or should there be some shopping in the area? And then what should it look like? Does that matter? This slide, it really, to me, it works well that you can't read it, because these are elements of housing costs. And in the, it was not my intention you couldn't read it, but it happens that it's difficult to, the contrast isn't good. But the polling that we've done and talking to everybody, affordable housing is a big deal, a big challenge for this community, this region. So this just goes through the, you know, labor and materials and financing and land costs, you know, all the elements to put a new house, to roll out a new house. And, you know, as, you know, looking at, as a planner for this project, you know, there's just so little that the city of Dickinson or Stark County can do to adjust that. So it's kind of a challenge. Okay, so here comes the best part. You ready with the clickers? We need your help on a number of these issues, and Andrew will and Bob will pass out the clickers. And how many of you were here the last time? I recognize some faces. So you guys are like experts on doing this this program. So this is keypad polling. You'll be asked to give an answer, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the little keypads, you know, have the numbers on there for you to give your answers. This is my plea to you. These don't work for anything other than this software. They won't open your garage or turn on your microwave. So we need them back when we're done, and we're not going to frisk you going out, but we really do need them back so we can do this again. We will be posting probably tomorrow, a second survey on the website that will have many of these questions, so that if you want your husband or wife or a best friend or a colleague to participate in this survey and they weren't here today, they could do it online, and it'll be many of these same questions. Okay, so we have some practice questions to make sure that you can handle this. So which of these Teddy Roosevelt statues is in the city of Dickinson? Is it statue number 1, number 2, number 3, or number 4? And press whatever number you think. I see some confused faces.
Yeah, if you just push the button, it'll turn on. And then if you're getting either a yellow or red light, it's not working, and I can give you another one. But if there's a little green light that flashes, then it's working.
So we good? Yeah, no cheating over there. Okay.
All right, the correct answer was number 3, and 56% of people got it right. 41% guessed number 2, 4% number 4. And do you know where those are all from, Karen?
The one on the far right that hardly anybody guessed is in Minot, and the other one that everybody liked is in Rapid City. And that one's kind of neat because it's right on the sidewalk. It looks like a person standing on the sidewalk with a shadow, but it's the number 3. Those of you that took a close look, it's the county courthouse is behind, so if you haven't seen the statue, that's where it is. All right, now this question, Andrew told me I had to ask hard questions, so this next one is even harder. And you seem to like the Teddy Roosevelt one. So where was he sworn in as president, 26th president? Was he sworn in Washington, D.C., in Chicago, Buffalo, New York, or Oyster Bay? We'll see how many Roosevelt experts we have. This is not an easy question. Okay. Well, you're smarter than I thought.
Yeah, the right answer was Buffalo. 44% of people got that right. 30% guessed Washington, D.C., 15% guessed Chicago, and 11% guessed Oyster Bay, New York.
So who wants to let everybody know why that happened in Buffalo? Oh, we just guessed Buffalo? That was just an easy guess? Kind of an odd place to put there? President McKinley was assassinated before that, and that happened to be where he was. They were at the World's Fair outside of Buffalo. And the thing I read, said that he didn't want to go like rushing in while the previous president was, on his last legs. But when he got the word that he had died, then he went there and he was sworn in there. And there's a sign that says there. All right, so here come we're all good to go ahead. So state of New York can claim that. Okay. Since we talked about the interchanges a lot, the first few questions are the interchange. The first few questions are about that. So what do you think is the best use for the interchange? Truck stops, motels, industrial uses, dealerships, multifamily, other, or the last is, any use is okay. And it may be different opinion, but I mean, to me, there's no right answer to any of this. We're looking to see what the group feels. That's pretty clear.
Yeah, the top choice was truck stops with 52%, then motels and restaurants with 28%, and industrial uses with 12%. And then 4% said other, 4% said any use is okay.
Okay, so the next one is what should we not have at the interchanges? What uses should not be allowed? Are there any that you would not want to have at the interchange? It's the same list as before. Truck stops, motels, restaurants, industrial use, dealerships, multifamily. The last one is anything goes.
The top voter for uses that should not be allowed was multifamily with 58%. Industrial uses had 31%. Any use is okay had 8%. And then dealerships had 4%.
Okay, so now we're going to go up. This is the last one up at the interchanges, I think. We're going to go out a little bit further than right at the interchange. So besides truck stops, which is kind of my guess as to what we were going to have as an answer, what uses are the best within a quarter mile of the interchange? So this assumes truck stops would be at the interchange, so what else should be around the area?
Motels and restaurants.
That was the runner-up for the last time. It was kind of a no-brainer that was going to be the winner, but it's a big winner.
Yeah, motels and restaurants was 72%, followed by industrial uses with 12%, then other had 8%, multifamily and any uses okay had 4%.
We talked the last time about the importance of gateways to the, ensuring that gateways are attractive, and this was the results of that polling. 75% said that. So this is a follow-up question. Would you support design guidelines at the 4 quadrants of the new interchange? This is a little easier answer. It's either you support it, you don't, or you're not sure, or you don't care. And you liked it. So
Yeah, 88% support design guidelines, 8% are not sure, and 4% don't support.
okay, so this is, it's a long question, but so stepping outside of the interchange area, what kind of commercial uses should be within the study area? Assuming there'd be residential, so what kind of commercial uses should be within it? Any and all commercial uses, or more limited to neighborhood commercial? Or the next one is neighborhood commercial plus gas stations? And then the last one is you're not sure. So outside of the interchange area, what kind of commercial should be there? And this really speaks to the character of the area.
Any and all commercial uses was the top vote getter with 50%, followed by neighborhood type services and gas stations with 38%. Only neighborhood type services, such as coffee shops, pharmacies, etc., got 8%, and 4% weren't sure.
Great. Okay, now you get to vote on our concepts. So these are the 4. So the number 1 is the corridors, rolling out along the roads. Number 2 is westward growth. 3 is the nodes, and 4 is the industrial focus growth. So which of those do you prefer? Number 1, the corridor. 2, the westward growth. 3, the villages, and 4, the industrial focus. And 5, you're not sure. And you can probably guess what the next question's going to be too. But so you prefer? It's going to be really interesting. You prefer 3.
Number
prefer 1.
Yeah, number 1, the corridor growth was the top vote getter with 46%. And then number 3, the village node growth with 29%, followed by number 4, industrial development, 13%. And then 8% had number 2, westward growth, and then 4% weren't sure.
Okay, so which of those do you like the least? We could just use the results from before, but sometimes they're a little different. You might change your minds. So which of these do you like the least? This is really going to help us as we do more detailed work on these concepts.
So number 2, westward growth, 46% liked it the least. followed by industry-focused growth, 38% liked it the least, and then 8% liked village or node growth the least, and 8% were not sure.
Okay, we're going to talk about housing and residential use for a little bit. The last time this was your polling, we asked you what the area needed most, and it was single-family subdivisions. So we have a few questions about that. Currently, the city of Dickinson requires 7,000 square feet for single-family. So the question is, would you agree to decreasing the size of some single-family lots in this West Dickinson study area? Not all the lots, some of them, and specific to this area.
%52 voted no, 44% said yes, and 4% are not sure.
So this is kind of a redundant question. I'm not sure we even need to ask it. Well, I will anyway. So do you have any concerns about decreasing the minimum size? So 1 is significant concerns, 2 moderate concerns, 3 no concerns, and 4 is you're not sure.
48% of voters had moderate concerns, 32% have significant concerns, and 20% have no concerns.
Okay. So then this example of type of single-family development, we're asking, do you think it's appropriate for part of the West Dickinson study area? And I need to give you a little background on this. Is a obviously it's a real project because it's built. But it's called, the name of the project is called Josephine Crossings, and I think it's about 200 acres. It's south of Billings. So these homes have either 2 or 3, say 2-car garages, and they're on an alley. So would this kind of development be appropriate for any part of the West Dickinson study area? And some of them are 2 stories, some 1, kind of mixed together.
Yes, 55%, no, 32%, 14% are not sure.
Okay, these I feel like a used car salesman or something. These lots actually are about 3,500 square feet in size. The project does, for true, disclaimer or honesty in salesmanship, this project does have parks in it. Some of the lots themselves are 3,500 square feet. It's close to a regional trail. There are assets to it, but the single-family lots are 3,500 square feet. So would you think, now that you know that these are small, would they be okay in this area? Something like this? You still don't?
Yeah.
Pretty clear message.
And
Okay.
no, 63%, yes, 38%.
So in the last polling, we talked about protecting the quality of Patterson Lake, and 95 people supported that. So there are a couple of follow-up questions. The first is, would you support a watershed master plan for the lake? It sounds like a lot of words, but so this would be a study. It has nothing to do with what we're doing now, but we're considering it as a recommendation. Would study any kind of discharges into the lake and what the existing conditions are of the lake and its future. So the discharges would be from both ag discharges and industrial and residential roadway going into the lake.
%, support, 16% don't support, 4% aren't sure.
Okay, and one more kind of, Bob talked about the trail opportunities, connected to those flowways and greenways. So this question asks, would you support, and at this point it's supporting to include in our recommendations, trails along, including trails along these drainage ways, greenways. Hopefully they would connect to the Crooked Crane Trail that went around the lake if that's something that moves forward. So 1 if you support it, 2 if you don't, and 3 if you're not sure.
%88 support and 12% are not sure.
I thought that at one point that I should have a kind of one of those markers across the top that tells you how far you are to being finished, but we just have a few more. So the next few questions, we're looking at your commuting patterns and how far you drive to get to different things. So the first question is, where do you live? You live within this study area or in the city, not the study area, or actually it should be in the city of Dickinson. And if you're in Stark County but outside of Dickinson in the study area, or you live someplace else.
52% live within the city of Dickinson, not in the study area. 24% live in Stark County, outside of the study area. 20% live within the study area, and 4% live somewhere else.
Okay. So continuing on, how long do you commute to work every day? 0 to 15 minutes, up to half an hour, up to 45 minutes, an hour? And hopefully not many people answer the number 5, but maybe so. Anybody commute that long? Not that long.
0 to
Whoa, who's that poor thing?
Yeah, 0 to 15 was the top vote getter at 78%. 16 to 30 minutes had 17%, and then 4% say more than 60 minutes.
Okay, and then this isn't just the tag on there is commuting, but this is your overall every week. How many miles do you drive? Give it a general sense. 50 miles a week do you drive, or 100, 200, 300, 400, or more than 400? Last week I drove 1,300, but that was a weird week. But on an average week, how many miles do you go? A lot of miles.
Yeah, 101 to 200 miles had 39%. 0 to 50 had 22%. 201 to 300 had 22%. And 51 to 100 had 17%.
In Bob's presentation, he talked about roundabouts. So we're curious as to whether everybody here has experience driving through a roundabout. I'm originally from Boston, and we call them rotaries there, but same deal. So have you gone through one of those yet? Yes, mostly everybody.
Yeah, 96% yes, 4% no.
As Bob noted, this one is in Kildare. If you want the experience of riding through one, it works as well as any that I've seen. There's this old Chevy Chase movie where he went around the rotary that's in Paris like 20,000 times before he finally could spin himself off, but this one works much better than that. Okay, if you encountered a roundabout in your regular travel routes, would you avoid it and go another way, or would you like it? Or would you not care whether it's there or not, or you're not sure?
The top vote getter is like it at 48%. 44% wouldn't care. 8% aren't sure, and 0% would avoid it.
Bob's really happy in the back that you like rotaries, roundabouts. All right, that's the end of the questions, and we really do appreciate your input, and we'll incorporate it into our work moving forward. The next steps, the next steps of our team is to continue doing the work we are, to incorporate the results from today's meeting, and to prepare a future land use map and a draft plan. There is a meeting on September 22nd. It is a public meeting, but really the function of the meeting is a workshop with the Planning Commission and the city commissioners. I expect there'll be some opportunity for public input, but it really is a workshop so that they get caught up on, what we've done so far. And the next steps we hope for you would be to check on the dickinsonplan.com website. This says survey number 2 is available now. It will be available by tomorrow morning. And any comments or suggestions, or if you want to be added to the mailing list, mailing list is growing, and we've notified people of, meetings that are coming up. And again, that's the project website, so I, invite you to go there. We're here. Bob is in the back, and Ed from the city, the community development, Ed Cortrain, the city development director is in the back. Sean Kessel, the city manager, is in the back, and the 3 of us from KLJ are here to answer any questions that you may have or want to discuss, or whatever. We're happy to do that. And anybody that's watching this at home, just send a comment and we will get back to you with any questions that you might have. And we have an announcement.
I know the clicker part is done, but I really have a question that I want to ask the group.
Okay.
So if we can use maybe your hands or just verbalize.
Yeah.
One of the biggest questions that I have in this this study area is, excuse me, maybe you can hear me better now. Sorry, I'm Sean Kessel, city administrator here in town. It has to do with schools. And you may know or may not know that when we, assuming we do grow out into this West Dickinson area, 50th Street is the cutoff for the school districts. When that happens, the city of Dickinson will actually expand into 2 different school districts. Anything west of 50th will be in the South Hart School District. Anything east of the 50th will remain in the city of Dickinson School District. My question to the group is, knowing that if there's a home either built or purchased on the west side of that line, do you have any concerns at all about buying or building a home west of that line, understanding that your child is probably going to have to go to will get to go to a South Hart School District?
There's one hand up.
One person has a concern, nobody else has a concern? Not in Dickinson, it's closed right now. Yeah, it could change. I'm using the existing circumstances, and granted it could change. But I've heard a lot of discussion about this, but nobody's really coming out, and maybe you're scared to say something publicly, but.
Mayor Johnson spoke at Rotary, and he said that right now the choices between Williston and Dickinson, and much of it is based on the school district, because Williston is using 4 Dickinson at a time.
Yeah, and the choice in this area would be South Hart or Dickinson if we grow in past 50th. And I'm just curious if there's any concerns with someone building or buying a house that would be in the designated school South Hart School District. Is that pose a concern, or is there not an issue? Could you click to a? It's a little bit, yeah. It's the roadway that goes down to the beach area, the public landing at Patterson.
I'm sorry, Sean. We'll get there.
Okay.
Well,
where that purple, does it have a,
Yeah, it does.
okay. Right, yeah, right there is, this is 50th. Yeah, yeah. So any residential house that's built in this area would be a home that the student would be expected to attend South Hart. And anything built in this area would be a Dickinson School District, as it stands today. So if you have a concern, and you're willing, I'd like to see a show of hands. I think it would depend on what South Park was going to do. Whether they, I don't think that their facility can handle that kind of growth today. So what would their plan be? Obviously, impact what we do. Well, and quite honestly, Dickinson couldn't handle the growth today either. So. Go ahead. That's completely, I'm certainly not going to weigh into the political aspects of, of that line. I'm just trying to get a general idea of, because, I think there was another. Yeah. And I'm not trying to make a judgment either way myself, but that's the kind of input that I'm looking for. Yeah. Anybody else feel that same way, or is this getting overblown? I'm seeing some raises and some nods and.
I definitely
Good.
have the same concern as a parent in terms of our growth, but we are impacted as developers. We're trying to work with developers with the Dickinson. They're both so overwhelmed. Nobody's really willing to step out and say yes or no. So I know exactly what you're asking the question. I'm simply trying to get the developers. We can't quite get anybody out there to that. And nobody wants to step on the other one's toes, at the same time nobody wants to get anything else. So it's kind of a guessing. We're, as parents, of the opinion that you need that Dickinson, but nothing against South Park School. It's a great school.
And I also want to be clear that as land is, if we annex land as a city, the school district boundary stays exactly where it is. Annexation does not change the school district boundaries. So if this new red line becomes the city of Dickinson's city limits, that school district line remains exactly where it's at. They are independent of one another. So it's important that people understand that, and that's why I'm trying to weigh in, because we don't affect as a city that school district boundary. And if there's the misunderstanding that an annexation changes the school district boundaries, I just wanted to clear that up. Go ahead, Galen.
So it seems obvious that the South Park School District is going to have some significant new revenues in the near future, given the refinery, other industrial development out there. So they're going to have a school district that has some money.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe can take care of their problem, whether or not they'll be busing people from basically the edge of Dickinson or not, whether they'll have enough money to do that kind of thing, we don't know yet. But nonetheless, the school district will have some pretty good revenues if the line does not move.
Yeah, they do get any property built west of this line goes to the South Hart School District. Very accurate.
Well, I think it also is that when you look at, all school districts are taxed as far as, if you have a school district this big, and they're gonna have 200 homes in the two years. And you have a school district that's this big, and you're gonna have the same 200. You're going from, meeting that one school to doing that two schools. And that's once again, we're absolutely not trying to go against South Hart. It's just a big nut to crack for you. So.
Okay. Any other comments? I'd love to hear the general input. That's exactly the type of thing I'd like to hear. Okay.
Conceivably, excuse me, as was mentioned, the construction of the school in South Lake District, people still would have to bus their kids to South Lake because there'd be maybe the school involved. That's an option.
Certainly, yeah. That would certainly be an option. The South Heart could build a school right where there's expected residential. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, so the comment about, an 8-mile trip may not, for a grade school, I don't know if there'd be another high school in there or not, but, yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's a topic that we need to get a lot more discussion going on, because it's one that is kind of hidden within this plan itself. So thank you. Yeah. That's a good point.
Multi-use facility, and it's gonna be K through 12.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
maybe a high school, or it's going to be
A middle school or,
middle school,
yeah.
or elementary school, so there's still some travel involved.
Yeah.
It's not just last year, it was all about
Yeah. Thank you again.
Sean's welcome to hijack this meeting anytime he wants. That's the presentation. If anyone has any questions now, or if we will be here for as long as you need us to be. We're yeah. Our project is to examine this area and see how it could develop in the future, and to present to the city staging recommendations and the cost for infrastructure for those stages. And it may be, between now and 2030, that this makes sense. Or it may be just that if development is interested in this part, or something happens, so the staging may or may not be tied to dates. That's where this study is finished. Any discussion about annexation is a completely separate project. So the answer is there is no timeline at all for annexation of any part of this. No, the ultimate goal really isn't that. The ultimate goal is to see if it makes sense to annex any of this. The answer may be not, or the answer may be part of it, or the answer may be in these kind of stages. I mean, that really is the ultimate goal. And when we finish with the more detailed planning and the cost estimates of what it would take to annex, to provide the infrastructure to the people in employment in those areas, the answer may be, my gosh, the city just can't afford to annex anything else. I mean, so that's what our study is about. Any other questions from the group? Well, thank you again very much, and we look forward to working through this plan and having those recommendations that the city is expecting from us. So Andrew's picking up the clickers, so we don't have to frisk you on the way out. And as I said, we will be here for as long as anyone has any questions of what we're doing. And if you sign the sign-in sheet, we will be notified when any further drafts go up on the website. Thank you very much.